evening. I think we're going to begin. Thank you for responding. I'm Linda Bayer. I'm welcoming you to our event this evening on behalf of the Hartford Vota Coalition. The first thing I want to mention is if you feel more comfortable listening to the forum in Spanish, we have George Hernandez at the back of the room. We also have the, what do you call it, like automatic simultaneous translation equipment. So you can sit wherever you want, but you can hear the translation from English into Spanish. So if there's anyone who would prefer that, would feel more comfortable, just see George back in the corner and he'll get you set up. So on behalf of the Hartford Vota Coalition, I want to welcome you here this evening. This is one in a series of candidate forums that we've had in prior years and will continue to put together. And tonight we're hearing from the candidates for Hartford Registrar of Voters who will be on the primary ballot on August 14th. The coalition is a group of 14 organizations and agencies, government agencies, and they are listed in your program, that have come together with the common goal of increasing voter engagement in Hartford. That includes voter turnout as well as folks being involved in the democratic system. And as part of our efforts to help residents be actively involved, we offer informational and educational sessions. We put together informational materials. We carry out voter registration and talk to people and make information available about the voting process. And this forum is a part of those efforts. And you can learn more about the coalition if you're interested by going to our website, which is listed in your program. I want to let you know that the coalition is co-hosting another candidate forum for candidates for state representative will be on the primary ballot. And we're doing that forum in conjunction with the Summer Law Institute at the Law and Government Academy of Hartford Public High School. So the students are working on the questions, they're working on publicity, and they will be handling many of the activities at the forum. So pick up a flyer if you don't already have one. That will be on Tuesday, July 31st. It will be at the Mark Twain Branch Library, which is located in the Hartford Public High School. We want to thank the Hartford Public Library for hosting our forum tonight in this beautiful new space. And thank you to the League of Women Voters, who will serve as our timers and also providing refreshments. And we want to say thank you to Stan for filming tonight. You'll be able to see, if you want to see it again, the forum on accesstv.org, probably on Channel 5, Hartford Public Access Television, and also on the Hartford Public Library or hartfordinfo.org website. And before we leave tonight, we ask that you complete the feedback form, which is inside of your program. We do appreciate any comments you have to give us. We take them into account when we're planning these events. So it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator for this evening, Dr. Louise Simmons. She's a professor of community organization and chair of the Urban Issues in Social Work area of study. She's the director of the UConn Urban Semester Program, teaches courses in community organization, political systems, political advocacy and theory, and a whole series of other programs and courses. And she's a former member of the Hartford City Council, so she has a good political sense as well. So let me introduce Louise. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, I want to thank you all for coming because this is a sign of a healthy electorate in Hartford to see so many of you here. Tonight we are having this forum for in preparation for voters of the primary election held on August 14th to determine who will be the Democratic and the Republican candidates for registrars of voters in the general election in November. The Democratic and Republican parties each endorsed a candidate, and 2 other individuals collected a sufficient number of signatures on petitions to qualify them to run in the primary, one in a Republican primary and one in a Democratic primary. So there are 2 candidates for the Democratic Registrar of Voters and 2 candidates for the Republican Registrar, and all 4 are here tonight. And the 4 people are, on the Republican side, incumbent Sal Bramante, and challenging candidate Naisha McCall. On the Democratic side, incumbent candidate Olga Vasquez, and challenging candidate in the Democratic side, Ramon Arroyo.
Mr. Arroyo is the endorsed Democratic Party.
I'm sorry, I had that wrong. Okay. All right, so I do stand corrected.
That's why you need to check some balances to the office.
Okay. So I see we're off to a vigorous start. So the purpose of this forum is to provide you with information about the office and the views of the candidates so that you can make an informed choice at the polls on August 14th. And part of that purpose, we want to hear, the main part of this will be to hear from the candidates, but we have also invited a representative of the statewide association, the Registrar of Voters Association of Connecticut, or ROVAC, to give you a brief outline of the roles of a Registrar of Voters. And I would like to introduce to you Judy Boudreau, who will yes.
How do you get that memo? Anyways, I'm here to tell you what a registrar does. I'm sure most of you think that the registrar only works on primary day and election day, because that's what every municipality thinks, and they think that the other 363 days they're in their house or vacationing and doing nothing. I'm going to tell you that the election laws are like watching paint dry. They are the most boring things I've ever seen in my life. But you guys, I'll make it very interesting for our lives, because you come up with some ingenious ways of trying to test these laws. We have a 4.5-inch book of laws that we have to follow. Look at this. We have visual aids. 4.5 inches. In fine print. And it's not easy to read these laws. And there are 2 registrars that are elected from the 2 major parties. Sometimes there are 3 because we have a 3rd party. What happens is they come from political parties. But once they get into the office, the politicalness has to stop. We're the only state out of 50 that elects 2. Why do they do this? People ask me this, and I say, look, that's in the Constitution, and I was not around then. I just looked like I was. They have to make joint decisions. If one person says no, then it doesn't happen. They both have to agree. They have to read the law, and they have to make a decision on what they're going to do. Starting in January, let's start the year out, they go through what is called a canvass, where they have to canvass every single voter in the town. And here in Hartford, you have a very unique way of doing canvass, not like the rest of us in the state, where they have to do canvasses 2 and 3 times on every person. Whereas in the rest of Connecticut, we don't have to do that. What they do is, all the time, they're looking at voter registration, trying to get people registered, and tracking people where they move. Now, believe it or not, I live in Vernon, and I have 3 districts where they change apartments every single year, usually May, June, July, because that's they get ready for the next school year. So it's very, very hard to track people. Do they tell motor vehicle? No, because if they told motor vehicle, I would know this, okay? They don't tell people that they've moved, so it's hard to keep up with people moving. That's one of the things they have to do. They have to educate voters. They have to go out to the high schools. They have to get people to come in to register to vote and to learn the election process. It's not an easy process, and there are so many laws that govern how they can do things that it is sometimes very overwhelming. A lot of towns have lost all of their staff, and for instance, I don't have my 2 clerks nor my deputies in the office anymore. It's just the 2 registrars. And so we have to do all the work that 6 of us did before. So it is a little more difficult. We do manage to get it done, but it is difficult. Come primary and election time, we have to get all the machines up and running, certified, make sure that those ballots are correct, make sure that they match the memory cards, we have to pre-test everything, we have to educate all the poll workers that are going to be working in the polling place. It's time consuming, but it can be very fun too. I really enjoy being a registrar. I happen to teach moderators around the state, and I love teaching people how to run elections on election day. I'm going to say that one of the biggest problems in our office is the political parties. And granted, you're not going to be happy about this, because I'm sure that's where you all come from. But you put undue pressure on the registrars who are trying to run elections. The Democrats want this, the Republicans want this, and they just butt heads constantly. And so it makes the office run a little bumpy once in a while. I don't know if there's anything else I could really tell you without to get into the nitty-gritty of what we do. Is there any questions that I can help anyone with? Yes?
Are we possibly going to handle the same day registration nonsense?
I look forward to that. I really do. Number one, I totally believe that. Number two, I helped create the presidential ballot the way it is. It runs perfectly fine. It'll run good as election day registration. The only difference between election day registration and the presidential ballot is that election day registration, they actually get registered, whereas the presidential ballot, they don't have to register. And I always kind of didn't like the idea of them not having to get registered, but when we put forward this program, you know, we write it, we give it to our legislature, and they change it a lot of times. And so it came out as not having to get registered, which I feel people should be registered if they're going to vote.
You can register.
Yes?
You can vote in the presidential election if you're not registered?
Yes, you may. But guess what? This is last year. This is the last election that people can come to town hall, get a presidential ballot, and vote for president. Why did we create this? It was because everybody comes out of the woodwork for a presidential. People that I haven't seen, I sit around town hall waiting for the first person to come in to tell me that the last time they voted was in town hall. And then I say, interesting, I've been registrar since 1983, and we've never voted in town hall. Who was the candidate that you voted for? That type of thing, because we don't. But people don't have to get registered. It's not, it's the college that elects the president, not the popular vote. So they created it without having to register. But with same-day registration, they will be coming into our office, they will be registering, and they will be voting a full ballot. Makes it much more fair for everybody.
Will same day be at the registrar's office or at the polls?
At the registrar's office, or a place that they so designate to have it. But definitely, we don't want it in the polls. Moderators have enough to do with what goes on now, and needs to be in the registrar's office where we can actually control it. And we shouldn't be giving up the job of registering voters to a polling place. It's our job.
If you're not registered, you cannot vote.
If you're not registered, you won't be able to vote. Absolutely. Which I think you're right.
I would like to maybe have these questions come back at the end, because we have 4 candidates and a lot of ground to cover, but we really thank you. You make us understand how important the roles of registrars are in the entire electoral process, so I think it's a very important role that you've described for us. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
So I want to just explain the format that we'll use. We'll have each candidate give a very brief 2-minute opening remark, and then I have been given a list of questions which I've already pared down, where we will ask each candidate to answer, if they wish, for a minute and a half. We'll do that until approximately half an hour, and then we will open it up for the last half hour to questions from the audience. And you know, that should ensure enough time for everybody to be able to ask your questions, and for the candidates to get their information out to you. So I would like to start with Naisha, if you would give your opening 2 minutes.
Okay. It is a wonderful space that we're in, and I am so relaxed with my clip-on microphone here. I don't know if I should stand, if I should sit. I'm so comfortable here in this seat.
Be comfortable.
Okay.
It'll get hotter later.
As I look around this room, I see so many faces that I know, and you know me as well, Naisha McCauley, as the television personnel. Okay. You know me from my community involvement. I'm PTO president. I've served on the board at Blue Hill Civic. I also chaired the Permanent Commission on the Status of Hartford Women. So I've been actively involved in the city of Hartford forever. I've lived here all my life. And what you don't know is that I also have this political hat. You know, here I am throwing my hat in the ring to serve in this office. But I don't necessarily see it as anything outside of what I already do on a daily basis. I serve, I feel, the residents of Hartford already in the capacity of empowering them to use their voice and deliver their messages on whatever it may be. So I feel as though running for registrar of voters is only going to enhance my ability to continue to serve each and every citizen in the city of Hartford. I'm actually just focusing that on making sure they're registered to vote, making sure that when they come to the registrar's office, they are served expeditiously, they have a clean election to look forward to, and they're educated. And I truly believe all those things. I know I can empower the people. I really want to see our voter turnout increase. You know, Hartford is plagued election cycle after election cycle with low voter turnout, and we have to do something about that. I know I can bring that to the table, engaging the members of the community to turn out and get out to vote. I think it should be a fun process, and I just noticed my time is up. Is there a bell, or is it?
They'll do this.
They'll do the bell? Is that it? Okay.
Good evening, everybody. And first of all, thank you for coming and participate in this debate. For those that don't know me, my name is Ramon Arroyo. I'm a social worker by profession. I also was a director of an adult daycare center for a few years. I'm running for the registrar of voters office because I feel that office needs change in the democratic side. I believe that in my sense, we have to make some changes. I've been involved in politics for more than almost 30 years. I've done many different races in the city of Hartford. I elected many different officers, or people in office. And at the same time, I elected those individuals that basically have represented me. And I think that the important that I see is that we have to get more participation in that office. We need to make sure that the voters of the city of Hartford are knowledgeable enough so they come out and participate in the process. I believe that I have that knowledge and that ability as a social worker to engage young people, because one of the things we have to understand here is our young, we need to educate young people so that they can participate in this process. And that, you know, I hope that we can do that together, and hopefully we can make it happen. Thank you.
My name is Sal Bramante. I have been a lifelong resident of the city. Grew up in the North End on Cabot Street, and subsequently, through many years, moved to the southwest part of the neighborhood of the city of Hartford. I'm a graduate of the University of Connecticut. I've been a lifelong Republican at the age of 18. I'm 58 right now, so I've been a lifelong Republican for 40 years. I've been a loyal soldier to the Republican Party. And now I've been challenged, and that's something that the democracy says everyone has that right. I've engaged. Everyone in this room has, one time or another in my 18 years, have come to my office, or our office, Democrat, Republican, and now the working families, and I've touched each and every one of you to the best of my ability. And I think I've been able to provide you with the best information, the most knowledgeable information that I have. Engaging, everyone has been talking about, the previous two speakers have talked about engaging the voters. The only way to get people to participate is to allow for candidates to go and engage the voter. That's the only way voters will come out to vote. We see the last this is the fourth part of the four-year cycle. In the first three years, our turnouts between maybe 7% during the Board of Education to approximately 24, 25%, maybe 30% last year for the mayor's race. And all of a sudden, come the presidential election, we're probably going to get 75% turnout. And the reason why people feel more comfortable voting for a national election than a local election. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Despite the weather, I'd like to say thank you to all of you who are watching us on public access television. My name is Olga Iris Vasquez. I am currently serving you as the Democrat Registrar of Voters. Much that I wanted to say has been said. However, I would like to continue serving you as the Democratic Registrar Voter with integrity and the utmost integrity, I must say, for the Registrar Voters Office. Everyone talks about engaging voters. Throughout my 17 years at the end of this term, I've been involved with the community as a single parent, PTO, volunteer as record keeper and accounting for daycare in the city of Hartford. I volunteer most of my time with the community. I've continued to engage the community with voter education, especially with the nonprofit and the youth in the high schools. We all talk about increasing voter engagement. Sal, my counterpart here, says that it depends on the candidate. Sadly, to some degree, I agree with that because it all depends on the candidates who are running for local office. So voter participation, we do need to increase. I'm not against that, I'm for that. However, when you have limited monies coming into your budget in the city and what you can do and what you cannot do and everyone dictating that office, there's a problem. So therefore, I wish to continue providing you with the best to my ability as the Registrar of Voters in the city of Hartford, and I seek your support on August 14th. Thank you.
I'm going to throw out a series of questions, and I counterclockwise. Yeah, clockwise this way, starting with South Levante, and give each person a chance to answer these. These were not made up by me. These were made up by people from the Hartford Votes Coalition, and including college interns who were involved in putting these questions together. I'm collapsing some of them for time's sake, but I want to give the benefit of all their work. So one is, the first question, what role do you feel the registrar of voters should play in educating the people of Hartford about voting and voters' rights? And these will be 90-second answers to begin with.
First of all, by state statute, we are obligated from January to June to provide voter education and voter registration to all our juniors that are turning 17-year-olds, turning 18-year-old, and also 18-year-olds that are currently seniors. So that alone gives us a big 5-month responsibility to educate the up-and-coming youth of our city. In addition to that, we receive numerous requests from outside organizations that are seeking our support to go out and do a voter education drive, show them the ballot, how to execute the ballot. And if you remember, about, I think it was about 2 years ago, I was participating in an Annie Fisher voter education session with students from the new magnet school, Annie Fisher Magnet School on Plainfield Street. And those are the type of avenues that registrars should be engaged to do. And it's all by request from outside communities, nonprofits, Hartford Voter that does that on a regular basis. I get their emails almost every day telling us what they're engaging in and what kind of forms it's trying to produce to bring people out. And our office is our office is a facilitator to allow for continual voter education, and we're there to serve. Thank you.
What role do you feel the registrar of voters should play in educating the people of Hartford about voting and voter rights? Voters' rights.
I believe that the role of the registrar of voter is a major part of educating the voters in the city of Hartford, regardless of age. There should not be a limit. We should start early. I did an internship a couple of years ago at the Capitol, and I was amazed to see that the suburban towns, their students are welcome to the Capitol, and they're educated, and I believe the League of Women Voters is a participant of that program. I would like to see the schools in Hartford engaging in such programs. We need to reach down to the younger youth at an early age, and I believe as young as the 3rd grade. We have children these days at the age of 3 or 2 that have a bit of knowledge more than other adults, sadly to say, but I see that. The thing is that the role for the registrar of voters, as myself in the past couple of years, I also extended to include the law enforcement program at Hartford Public High. So I will continue to provide the services in educating the community, especially the seniors, with the absentee voting process. So yes, we need to play a major role in educating.
Thank you.
I absolutely agree with both statements. They're right on target. The registrar should definitely, that should be a major role, educating, and then also with voter rights. One of the things that Hartford, being the city such as it is also plagued with a high incarcerated population who are then re-entering into the population. And that's a very large community of people who don't know their voter rights. So I'm a big advocate for letting them know, you can have your voting rights restored if you lost them. So education is vitally important, and particularly our unique populations in the city of Hartford. We have a large immigrant population, new citizens. How do we reach them? How are we educating them on their voter rights? All of this has to do with them participating in the process. You can participate, and this is the basic fundamental way that you can participate in your government, in your city, in the way things are run, is by voting. This is a basic, very fundamental right that we have as citizens, and so that is a vital component to the registrar's office.
Even though I agree with the sense of what they're stating, there's also a component that I believe that we can create more participation in this process. I believe that even though some of the candidates stated that the candidate is the one who has to appeal to the voters, I believe also that the office of the registrar of voters should take a lead in promoting and educating the voters. I give an example that voters sometimes they don't know what are their rights. I believe that it is our responsibility as a registrar of voters to inform them of what their rights are. I believe also that you need to talk to the voters and educate them. Go to high schools. I believe also that you should go to high schools and even though they say that, but I believe that you have to somehow engage the young people that are involved, to get them involved in this process. And not just the young, also the adult, because there are some adults that basically don't want to participate in the process because they feel that why do I want to vote? It doesn't matter. I think it's important to let them know the importance of participating in this process. And I think that, if elected,
You can finish your sentence.
if elected registrar of voters, I will basically make sure that I have the community 100%.
The next one, we'll start with Olga, and we'll go this way again. Do you think there's a way to simplify the voter registration process? Should there be a way to simplify this process?
There is a way to simplify, especially with today's technology. However, until legislation is changed to allow, and Judy's laughing over here, I can see her, until legislation is changed to allow us, an example today, I believe it was today or yesterday, a fax came in, right? Someone downloaded the application off the internet, and it came in. But the law says to us that we have to have the actual signature of the voter. So yes, we need to simplify the process. So therefore, I'm in agreement with that, and that's an example I give to all of you.
I agree to some extent, but I don't think it's too hard to access a voter registration card. It's not only available at the registrar's office, but you can register to vote at the DMV. If you are receiving any kind of state aid, they're always sending out, you may not know, they're always sending out voter registration information in their mailings to homes and residences. So the ease of registration possibly could be simplified, but I don't think it's that difficult to register now. I think you just need to know the rules around registering maybe, as far as the timeline. There's lots of legalities when it comes to how much time do I have before the actual election to register? Can I switch parties? Those things like that. But the actual function of registering is quite simple. It doesn't take much to fill out that little card. You don't have to provide that much information and get it down to the registrar's office.
I think that simplifying the process, eventually, I agree that we have to make some changes in the law. But I not only would like to simplify the registration process, I would like to also simplify the voting process. you know, there are some states that basically you can vote early on. I mean, that I think is important. I think that will help more participation if we create that type of system. I understand that the laws have to be changing, so that's when you go out to the legislature, talk to the legislature to see how we can change those laws. But not only voter registration, I registered thousands of voters. I mean, they're simple to do. But I think the key here is not to register the voters. It's also the participation of the voters. And I think we have to simplify how do the voters participate. And by that I mean, I think if we are in the 21st century, we can use technology for that purpose, you know. And I think that if as a register, I think I will pursue that so that make it easier for the voters, excuse me, to participate through probably from the house. There are some states that you can vote from the house, mail first, mailing your vote and all that. I think that the process for ADs has to simply be more simplified. Sad to say that the legislation that took place this year, it didn't have passed. That will make it simpler for the absentee ballots process.
Thank you.
The question was posed, how to simplify voter registration. I think in 1993, when it was first passed, the Voter Act of 1990, which was implemented in 1992-93. Judy, when was it? 92-93? Voter Act in 95. Thank you. And it was passed by the first Republican Bush, George Bush Sr. At that point in the history of voter registration, that particular simplification of how people were able to go out and get and to register started. You could use DMV, Department of Motor Vehicle, to get a voter registration card. Department of Social Services, when people apply for Social Service aid, they're required, the clerks or the state employee is required to ask them if they want to register. In the public library, in various public libraries and branches, state libraries, the voter registration card is allowed to be circulated, and then the administrator of the library, for example, then brings it back to our office or to the local town. So I believe the accessibility is there. We fine-tuned the voter registration card in the last number of years to allow that the card could make a change, name change, address change, party of enrollment change, and so forth. So I think the accessibility is there. We don't need anything else to further that at this point.
Okay. The next question, we'll start with Naisha. The City Council recently passed a resolution directing the Office of the Registrars to implement cost-cutting measures in order to remain within their adopted budget. What would you do to respond to that resolution?
This is very interesting because at the July 9th council meeting, this very issue came up. Because the current registrars have requested an additional supplement of money in order to meet the needs of this primary. And that was a cause of major concern for the council because it is an unexpected kind of expenditure after they went through this long, lengthy budget process. At that meeting, they really expressed the fact that they were thinking that they would cut the budget, but in response, the registrars would cut the deputies, and that has not happened. So this is actually still a very hot potato here in the city of Hartford. Hot button issue. Do you cut your deputies given that your budget was cut? In tough economic times, under tight budgets, you have to make tough decisions. Would I cut my deputy? If given all the parameters, I have to honestly say I would definitely look at that. Cutting a deputy or maybe reducing the hours to part-time would be one of my cost-cutting measures. I know that one of the areas that was looked at was reducing the number of poll workers. That's one option, but you have to cut your staff. As Judy mentioned in her opening statement, she's kind of doing this on her own, and that's just something that you have to do. Those are the tough decisions that you have to make. So we're all friends and family, but at the end of the day, you have a bottom line, and you gotta do it, so.
When the council decided to reduce the budget from the Office of the Raised Door Voters, basically, I believe that is because there's been spending too much money in some patronage jobs that the office has, especially employees that work for the city part-time. And at the same time, I think that I agree with Ms. McCauley that it's tough time. I mean, paying very good salaries to those part-time workers when you can reduce their salary, or at the same time, I think also that having the issue of reducing the budget, you have to also look at all the extra positions that are there to make sure that we reduce that, and so we can try to balance the budget. I mean, this current raised or voters office has been over budget for a while. I mean, that's our tax dollars. We got to protect our tax dollars, and I think that having too many employees or many poor workers at the money they pay for, I think we need to look at that, reduce that, so that hopefully we can have some measurement made.
When it comes to the primary, I'll talk about this supplemental appropriation that was passed by the Council on July 9th. Before the mayor and his cabinet back on around March, middle of March, we provided them with a flatline budget of $740,000. They looked at a 3% cut, 7% cut, 10% cut. Ultimately, they decided for the full year budget to cut 25% of our budget. When it came to the primary though, that's a non-budgeted item of our budget. There was a business case presented to council and to the mayor that reflected the necessary minimal needs that both the Democrat and Republican registrar needed to run the primary on August 14th. That particular business case was never considered by the mayor or the council at the time. That's the reason why we presented we sat down with David Penagor on June 4th to discuss with him what our needs were, because that business case was never discussed at the time. It was never even brought to the attention of the city council. So that's the reason why we came before council to ask for a supplemental appropriation to cover the primary.
I sat here and listened to all the other candidates. And being the last candidate to answer the question, it's not much to be said, but to say to all of you out there as taxpayers that it's okay for everyone to have these assumptions about misappropriating the budget in the registrar of voters' office. However, I would like to see any newly elected registrar of the city of Hartford forget about Vernon, forget about all those other towns, and see if you're going to get volunteers at the polls. You, in the registrar of voters' office, going to sit there, and first and foremost, I challenge the current council members to volunteer their services. And the only one that came to okay? So therefore, it's beautiful for someone to appear before you as taxpayer and paint this beautiful picture, but I would love to see you in there and see that you won't have your own family working in the registrar of voters' office.
Okay, I'm going to only ask about 2 or 3 more questions and then open it up to the audience. How do you feel, and we'll start with Ramona Royal for this, how do you feel about efforts being made across the country to suppress voting through such means as requiring voters to show driver's licenses at the polls?
Well, I understand, and I read an article about that, that the Koch brothers, multi-billionaires, are basically using their money to try to suppress the voters, especially across the nation. And I think that, personally, I think that that's a right that we all have to participate and to vote. And personally, I personally think that that we should try to encourage participation. I mean, this nation was built on all the different nationalities that we are here. And I think that we just have to encourage them to participate, not to diminish that. And I think that trend that there's a group of people that are trying to reduce or suppress the voters, I think somehow we as a community should be outlaw and fight that, because, I mean, many people die for this right to vote. And I think that we cannot allow a group of people dictating for the majority of the community in the importance of participating. So I'm totally against what they're doing. Thanks.
That's a very easy question. I don't like any person's right to be suppressed, vote. I think the state of Connecticut's laws are good enough and flexible enough where we allow a voter to show ID, either with a photo or not, or any other types of form of ID, as well as if a person doesn't show ID, they sign a Form 3, which allows a person without an ID to swear on the self-administered oath to themselves, saying that that's who they are, and we still allow that person to vote. So Connecticut, I think, is one of the better states in our union that allows for voters to allow voters without ID to actually vote. So I think we're way ahead of the curve. What has happened in Texas, what's happening in Florida, and any other state that you know that voter ID suppression is trying to happen. So I think I commend the state of Connecticut, and those laws have been in place for at least 30, 40 years, especially now with the provisional ballot issues with voter ID requirements as well.
Okay. I'm also against suppressing the voters and participating in the electoral process. I watched this closely on national television, and it just made my blood boil. But again, we're not in Florida. But however, being the registrar in the office, currently in the office, we are experiencing the trickle-down effect, the domino effect in our office. We have received numerous phone calls from voters in the city of Hartford because of this media coverage and their concern about their voting status. So as an election administrator, it is my duty to continue to educate the voters to, yes, as Sal says, we are well in advance in Connecticut. You are not suppressed by not providing a voter ID or pre-printed or government issue ID. That is what you have here in the city of Hartford or the state of Connecticut to your advantage. So therefore, I welcome all voters to participate and partake in the electoral process here in the city of Hartford. Thank you.
It's always tough being the last person to answer a question. Of course, you already heard all the good answers, but you know, voter suppression because you don't have a valid ID it's criminal, considering that there are other precautions that you can take to make sure that the person is truly one person, one vote type of thing. There are checks and balances in the system, just right there when you go into a polling place. You can verify that, well, Jane Doe was already here to vote. Who are you, kind of thing. So not having a valid photo ID should not suppress the vote, and the fact that Connecticut has this robust system is awesome. So,
thank you. This is a softball question, but I think you all deserve it at this point. We'll start with, yeah. What types of working relationships would you established with other registrars of voters who are elected?
I think I've been doing it for 18 years. That's my answer.
I believe that in all fairness, I will continue to extend my hand to every registrar of voters out there. However, the question should also be a two-part. Will that other registrar extend that hand to me?
But it is kind of an incumbent question, don't you think?
What would you say?
What happens, no, let me ask this, what happens if we lose and you're in?
Right. You know, true. You do join the association, and that way you get to meet the other registrars in the state of Connecticut and definitely lean on one another. I would welcome that opportunity to be able to do that. So I would certainly participate in all of the activities that are held by the association.
So you do it.
Well, I think that it's tough, but I agree with Ms. McCauley that basically we have to, I will basically will join the organization, participate in their activities, because basically me as a social worker, and that's what I do in a daily basis, relate with individuals. So I think it's important that me as a new registrar know the other registrars across the state so that we can develop a good relationship. I can learn from them, and they may learn from me, and that's how I believe that it can happen, because basically not everybody knows everything, so I'm always willing to learn something new, and I think that would be the key place to do, and that would be the association.
Here's the last question from the prepared questions, and then we'll open it up. What's your personal investment in the city of Hartford, and why do you care about Hartford?
My personal investment and why do I care about Hartford? I was born and raised in the city of Hartford. I'm the daughter of the city, one of them. I care, looking at the future of the city, empowering the voters. The voters need to understand and accept the fact that the power is at the tip of their fingertips. When they go out to vote and they select that preferred candidate, this is moving the city in the next direction. So my personal investment is to see the city move forward to better ourselves and the city for a better city for all.
What is your personal investment in the city of Hartford, and why do you care about this city?
That's a great question. My personal investment in the city, like Olga, I've lived in Hartford all my life. Went to all the Hartford schools, graduated from Hartford High, and I'm raising my family here in Hartford. And one of the things that, and I tell this story to my husband all the time, that it really wasn't until I was at Cork Middle, and I grew up in Sand apartments on Main Street, everybody knows what Sand is, right? And it occurred to me in health class, we were talking about a particular topic, and she said, you know, the people who live like in the West End, like the white people. And I said, there's white people in Hartford? And that's because we live in these silos in Hartford, and people really don't connect. There's no, real connection in Hartford. So I'm invested, my personal investment is, reaching out across those borders and breaking them down, because it's a small enough city where the North End residents shouldn't be bewildered that there's something happening in the West End that they're not also a part of. So my personal investment is, I'm a lifelong resident, I'm raising my family here, and I want what's best for them as well as for every other resident in the city of Hartford.
Well, I wasn't born in Hartford. I was born in Puerto Rico. I came to Connecticut in 1980, so I've been here for 32 years plus. And I came here to work, and I work in the city, my family here. We basically, my kids grew up here. My investment in the city of Hartford, well, basically I've been involved since I got into this city, since '85. I'm involved with the NRC, the Parkville NRC, the Friends of Folk Park. Presently I'm a commissioner of the Latino Puerto Rican Affairs Commission. I can go on and tell you how many things I've been part of involved in the city. I help people get elected. I raise thousands of voters. So that's my investment. I've been involved in this city for almost 32 years. And I believe in this city. When I started working for the city, and I could have basically bought a property outside the city of Hartford, but I believe in the city. So I'm a homeowner in the city of Hartford because I believe that the city of Hartford has a lot of potential. It's a rock in the diamond, and I know that will eventually will be shining a light again. Thank you.
It sounds like we all have roots in our city. I'll even give you a little deeper root. You know Temple Street? All right? It used to be one way. Then it was closed. They wanted to make it a mall. River Deep. Then they opened it up and made it one way again, with the 6 pillars. Well, my mother was born on Temple Street. All right? She went to Barner Brown. The old Barner Brown. Now with Capital Region, Capital Magnet. Capital Magnet, same thing. So my roots are very deep in Hartford. And I feel chills every time I talk about Temple Street and the tenement houses. That if the core of the city was still here back in 1950, we would have a downtown today, which would be vibrant. And that's why my investment in the city is such. And I pay my taxes. One more thing, it's very important, that I served the city in many other capacities. I was a commissioner on the city plan. I was very instrumental as president of South-Southwest LD Housing Corporation, the 36 units of LD housing near neighborhood school on Eaton Street. I was the president of a nonprofit while I was still working in corporate America. Me and a guy named Ken Anderson, who used to work for the city, the planning department, that between him and I, we made sure that that LD housing for the community was built. So my roots and my dedication to Hartford has never been suspected, and my loyalty to the city has always been that way. Thank you.
You've been great as a panel of candidates, so now we're going to open it up to the audience.
Bus shows up in front of the polling place, Grace Lutheran, full of people who obviously have little or no sense, let's be honest. They are not, they can't talk, they can't speak, they can barely walk. The driver walks them in and votes for them, the whole bus load. Is that not fraud?
Yeah.
Who do we report that to? And it did happen during the last election, no question about it, during the last presidential election. Is that fraud? And what do we do when we see that happen?
I was not in office when that took place, if that took place during the last presidential election. Yes, it is fraud. Who do you report it to? There's a process, state election enforcement. However, I advise everyone who is listening or watching this is to, today technology allows you to have cell phones and you have cameras, correct? You need to fear it when you see someone committing fraud. That will be your alibi, and that will be part of your filing complaint with SEEC. SEEC is State Election Enforcement. Most people believe that when they come to the registrar voter's office and file the complaint, the registrar can listen to you. However, the registrar can only advise you and direct you to how to file your complaint.
Excuse me, that was not the answer. The question was, how do you stop that if you work the polls?
Okay.
If you're the moderator or assistant registrar, how do you stop that busload of people can vote
Okay,
anyway.
I apologize for leaving that part out. How do you stop it? You have to call it to the moderator's attention. Moderator must call our attention, and one of us must rush out there. Hopefully, we can control this before it just goes out of control. But that is the process. Bring it to the moderator's attention, and moderator would then inform the registrar of voters office. Did I answer your question?
The key, the eyes and ears of every polling place is the moderator. That's the reason why the moderator makes, gets paid the big bucks, whatever how much they make, supposedly. But in a very serious note, the moderator is the top election official in that polling place. And it's incumbent on all the election officials that work with that moderator, if they see something that's not correct, based on the training that we provided them 2 weeks before that primary or that election, they should right away notify our office, number one, and we rush there. Number two, in our training, we tell our moderators, we tell our assistant registrars, we tell our official checkers, we tell our ballot clerk, and we tell our tabulated attenders that they all have the right to challenge anyone who is trying to attempt to vote. And there's a process in state statutes to allow for challenge. And that's some of the mechanisms that are invoked at a polling place.
So I think that's an incumbent question, but at the same time, I believe the moderator is the one who controls the total workers that are there in that particular polling place. And I think that's the key. That's the key person to have. Make sure that that person also report to the register of voters the issue that occurred. I mean, that's why basically I'm right now fighting to have some moderators be established in the polling places, because the fact that my opponent basically violated section 9-4.36 of the state statute, but where I'm entitled to some moderators to make sure that they also see those illegal stuff that may happen in the polls. But sad to say is that I don't have that opportunity to have a moderator to watch that make sure that no illegal stuff happens in the polls. And for that reason, I filed a complaint against our register of voters because section 9-436 has been violated, and hopefully that will be taking place. And me as a candidate and also as an endorsed Democrat, I'm entitled to have moderators, and at this time, I don't have zero.
I think Olga said it best. You know, the moderator is the official in the polling place, and it really is incumbent upon the moderator to shut that activity down. So I love her idea about the cell phone. You know, everything is captured now on cell phones and put up on YouTube. So, snap away and it'll be on YouTube before the registrar probably.
Other questions? Please use the mics.
Hello, everyone. How are you all doing?
We'll call on you right away afterwards.
Hello. My question specifically is to Ramon. I know of several incidents when several black women were working for you. One in particular, Katie Wilcox, which you really started a medical condition because of your bullying her. And so I want to know, we're talking about suppression of the vote. And I want to know, in view of some history that we know that has been in your household, how are we, the voters of the city of Hartford, are going to be assured that you won't bully people to make sure they vote for you?
Ms. Bryant, that doesn't merit an answer. But I'm gonna tell you something. I'm a social worker. As a social worker, I don't think in my life I've done any bullying. But let me say that I understand that you are one of Ms. Olga Vasquez's person. But you know, you're talking about something that is natural, and I really would like you to bring to me that situation, because as a social worker, as a social worker in the city of Hartford for many years, I never bully anybody, okay? So, I mean, I think you are very fabricating, just like you did last week, fabricating issues. But let's look at the facts, you know? Let's look at the facts that I have here, and then we can talk about it,
Fact,
you know?
and I went down to when you were down on Park Street. My friend, my sorority sister, and my church member, she did not have a medical condition the way you bullied her. So I'm not talking about what I heard somebody else say, because I came down and spoke to you myself in person. So, you know, don't tell me that as a social worker, because I'm a social worker too. So I know that because you got a social worker still, you didn't use them then. You didn't use them then.
Ms.
So
Bryant,
when people in this room,
Bryant, you fabricated
they're
issues,
gonna be in
and that's not true. And that's not true, and you know that. That's not
No,
true.
I know that, that's why I came to say something about it.
Just like you said last week about.
Hello? How are you all doing? Good, good. Okay, I have a question. Because, you know, over the years we talk about voter turnout, and we really do have a problem with voter turnout. We register, but there's not much turnout. So, I mean, we have what, 3 registrars right now. So I'm asking, why isn't it our voter turnout more than what we have right now? So can anyone answer that question? Why isn't it that we have more people actually going out to vote? Thank you.
I can answer that question.
We have this for the candidates, so.
I'm asking it to the candidates, please. Thank you.
Well, I'll start. I'm sure everyone is going to want to answer this one. Because it could be an opinion. So I know everyone has their opinion as to why our voter turnout is so low. But it was mentioned earlier about that kind of being because of the candidate, if you will. But I think the registrar office, in a nonpartisan fashion, can definitely play a role in getting out the vote. It doesn't have to be kind of like that thick book of laws, kind of, you know, this is the rule, and that kind of dry, put you to sleep kind of stuff. Let's make this process exciting. You know, bring some life to this process. Election day can be a carnival day, you know, face painting and clowns. You know, think outside the box. It doesn't have to be this steadfast, hard rules, particularly with our young people. If we truly are going to engage our young people in this process, we have to do better than what we're doing. So I say what we're doing is not good enough. We got to bring our A game if we want to get voter turnout, and that includes the registrar office. It's not just up to the candidates to have an appealing message, but restore civics. And that can be done through the registrar's office. And I think it doesn't have to be this dry, boring kind of political process. It actually is quite fascinating. So let's bring it back to how things used to be, as they say, even though that may be an old school term in that, but we can use technology in different ways. You know, everyone has a smartphone now. We have Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you know, using technology, increasing our communications out of the registrar's office. You know, other registrars in other states use Twitter to just tweet out different messages about what's happening. Hey, you know, your absentee ballot is due today, and this is what an absentee ballot is if you didn't know, you know. So you can use technology to educate and inform and connect. You have to make that connection to people, and technology is definitely one of the ways that you can do that, and thereby increasing voter turnout, because people have been a part of the process outside of just election day. They've been a part of the process year-round, if you engage them in that way.
Any other candidates you want
Said it very well.
to? Anybody else?
No, she said it very well. Very good.
Very
Just gentleman is next, and then you.
Edward Hagan back. I was wondering about the 14th. It's going to be a crazy day because Olga should know and Sal and Rand should know. We have to change one of the voting booths. I got a card home that says where I vote, but too many people have been asking me, well, where do we vote, Eddie? Where do we change votes? So I'm very concerned about Tuesday, the 14th anyway, continuing after the 14th. Because some people come to me at the voting day, they don't even know if this is their voting booth. Some people come and they have to get a ride to another voting booth, and there's nobody there to bring them to the right voting booth. Because they could go to the wrong place, and they could stand, and they don't know if this is the right voting booth or nothing, because it's a state mandate with the 2 new ones. If you didn't know that we have to change voting booths.
Okay, we get the gist. Why don't we see if anybody's known?
So, people at the Jeffrey asked me that, and I said, you all should have got a postcard, from, I guess, your offices or something, or the state office, I don't
Okay,
remember.
let's give them a chance to answer.
That states that.
Okay.
How do you know?
Let us answer the question, because we understand your concern, and it's a valid concern.
No, my question
Sal was-
is, I'm making sure we can be out here, to make sure people know their votes.
Okay. Sal, you wanted to answer?
I'll attempt to answer.
Okay.
I think Ed has mentioned, try to do a citywide mailing. Well, citywide mailing costs money. So that's pretty difficult to do that. In the demise of the two parties, organizational-wise, it's pretty difficult to communicate to voters where they should be going to vote. That's why we attempt every time to have people call our office days or weeks in advance to assure that they be able to know where their polling location is. Those are, I think, there are difficulty of transportation, there are difficulty of the demographics of our city to try to reach out, to get them to come out and know where they're supposed to be going. It's amazing that every 4 years, we get 75% turnout. People find how to get to the polling place on a presidential election. And everything, to me, everything is local. That's where the bug affects us the most. People know how to get to the polls. In this presidential election, people will know. We had a 68% turnout 4 years ago. I'm expecting 75% turnout for this presidential year. People will know how to get there. How do we transcend that to the non-presidential year is something that I've struggled with for many years. Why people do not want to engage during that period of time.
Other candidates?
I would like to just pick up on that and say that for those who are capable and able to have access to a computer, there is a website that we have, and we try to update it as often and as much as possible to inform the voters. So that is also a way, and a linked way, to communicate with our voters in the city of Hartford. I myself have appeared in many public access television shows here locally to continue to educate and keep the voter informed of their polling place. And during the recent redistricting, that was a task, but we managed to do that. And I appear as well during the community access television and in local organization meetings throughout the city and with churches. And I will continue to do that on my behalf.
What's the address of the website?
www.hartford.gov.
And the link, and if I'm mistaken, the link also allows you, if you click on the polling location, it also goes right to the map and the district where that polling location is. So it's almost like, kind of like a GPS, where it also identifies on the screen where the location of that polling place is. So there is essence to that knowledge of knowing where your polling place is. Thank you.
Well, I also would say, you know, if a person shows up at a polling place and they're not in their right polling place, I would imagine the staff is trained to direct them to their correct polling place as well.
I have encountered, I think there's a couple of people here in the audience that have seen me in action out there troubleshooting at the polls during primary and election day. I use this for an example because it's true facts. I've seen myself at location at Liberty Christian, for example, and people have appeared there to cast their vote, and they find themselves that they're at the wrong polling location. So through the help of other candidates providing transportation at the time, or even myself allowing that voter to come aboard my vehicle, my personal vehicle, and I transport and making sure that that person gets to that right polling location and bring them back to their polling destination. So yes, I've gone beyond.
Sounds like a great job for a candidate. I'm sure they're hungry to bring that voter.
Thank you. We'll take the next question.
My question has to do with the follow-up on some of the others I've heard earlier. The candidates have touted the statutes that are the laws for protecting our rights as voters, and other questions have said that you go to the SEEC if there's any problems. So my question is to the incumbents, have you ever been cited or fined by the SEEC or by the courts of the state of Connecticut for not following those same laws that you're supposed to be protecting for us Hartford voters? Either one of you.
I'll start first. I have not, but I did my first 2 weeks as a deputy registrar during the days, if you remember Edwin Garcia, the former policeman. I was, back then, when State Representative Garcia was in I believe a town committee race, Auga.
Yes.
Auga was the deputy registrar under Tony Meehan. So I was only in the job 1 week when there was a town committee primary for the Democrats. And my boss at the time, Joe DiLorenzo, said to me, go out there and check the polling places with Auga. And if you remember, anybody who was still here back then, Mr. Garcia, in the polling places that he was state representative, he had drawn stencils, Linea A. Now, Linea A to me, knowing Italian means line A, all right? In Spanish means line A. It was within the 75-foot mark, and we filed a complaint with state election enforcement. Subsequently, we went to a polling place, and the old mechanical machines used to press the button. Machine 10 used to press the button to allow the person to go in and close the curtain and then release the curtain and vote. The machine tender was Edwin Garcia's mother. Hold on, it gets better. She was saying something in Spanish, saying Linea A. I said to Auga at the time, Auga, something's not right here. Someone's saying Linea A. Something's not right here. We confirmed that Mr. Garcia's mother was telling people as they were going to the polls to vote for line A, which is the line that Mr. Garcia's town committee was. We were both pulled to court because he was challenging the results of that town committee race. The lawyer for Garcia said, why is the Republican be here? Why is he being here? And the judge says because he was doing his job. Irrespective that I was a Republican, had nothing to do with that election or that primary. But because I was doing my job, he excused Auga and I from the deliberations, and subsequently he lost. The moral of the story is, checks and balances is very important. Irrespective, when you're there from 8 to 5, or you're there on election day from 4 to 4:30 in the morning until around 11, 12, 1 o'clock. In Hartford, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know about the small towns, all right? But the fact of the matter is, when we're on the clock for the city and for the betterment of the city, the two-party city, the checks and balances is very important. After 5 o'clock, I'm a Republican. My town chairman is right there. I work with the town committee to try to help them out. Well, we're bipartisan, and to say that, it's a long story, but I wanted to give you the story because it goes back.
Okay, but does that mean you were or weren't cited?
We were not. But I wanted to give you an example of a point where someone was challenging my role, saying that I shouldn't have belonged in, that I was not part of administrating the laws of the state of Connecticut. And they were challenging my authority, even though it wasn't part of my primary.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to answer that because I know that the question is directed directly to Olga. Mr. Royal has over there, and it's labeled Kirkley Bay because I can see it from here. I got 20/20 vision. So therefore, no, I didn't say your first name. It just said Kirkley Bay. Oh. Okay? So therefore, to answer the question, it comes with the territory. Need to understand that regardless what the registrars do, there are going to be many people out there that are not going to be in agreement with the registrar's decision. So yes, there are going to be many complaints filed, many times throughout the 4 years term. Have I been convicted? No. Have I been charged with a crime? No. When we looked at the recent case with the petitions in section C of the petition signature, circulator signature, because I know that's where we're going. So therefore, let me clear that when it is important for everyone to know the history of the registrar and the incumbent coming back or someone coming in here with knowledge. You remember my first term, 4 years ago, I was challenged by then former Mayor Eddie Perez. And it's a coincidence that my opponent decided to write an article in La Voz that he was my great supporter, which Eddie Perez made sure I was out of office. Okay, so therefore, let's clear it up. So was I charged? No. There was a misunderstanding in that part of the election law because that's when the law changed that allows circulator to be in any part of the state of Connecticut as long as they were registered Democrat. So me coming back to office, I misinterpreted that and I gave that instruction to all town committees at the time. So they decided to challenge me. It went to court. It went to SEEC. It went to court, and therefore it came back that the individual, the slate that took the case to court, it became nolly because we had the primary, and guess what? The slate lost, and they won. So that's the answer to your question?
No, much like Sal.
Right.
Yes or no? No.
No, I said no. I said no. So I'm letting everyone, I'm giving somebody all of you some education. It comes with the territory. That's it.
Okay, I want to move this along, and we have 2 more questioners in line, and that's going to be the last 2 questions. And because we're running out of the time that we have allotted here at the library.
The state of Connecticut and the city of Hartford are facing incredible economic challenges. The registrar of voters are from a time where there were no computers, we didn't have telephones, we didn't have TV, we didn't have any of those things. The registrar's role is controlled by the legislature. And I think perhaps the legislature is going to have to look long and hard at doing things differently. If the legislature were to change the role of the registrar of voters to a civil servant, nonpartisan, administrative position, which would save enormous sums of money, what would the position of each of you as candidates be, given that you would essentially be becoming obsolete?
I don't mind responding first.
What would your response response to citizen change.
Let me clarify. Would you actively support the legislature and say, absolutely, you're right, it needs to be different, even though you would become obsolete? Okay, does that clarify?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
A civil servant would not be elected. It would be appointed. Correct.
A civil servant would either be appointed or where it would be a merit selection.
It would be similar to if you're a first selectman or the board of selectmen, or in the case of the city of Hartford, a strong mayor, he or she would then appoint a person with that qualifications to run as a director.
I think the question is, if they were made a civil servant.
In the sense that there would be a job description, there would be applications, there would be a vetting, there would be qualifications.
I have no problem with that.
I agree, I have no problem with that. It's custom in other states, it works that way. Not every state has an elected, definitely not a two-party elected system. It would save money. I'm for good government. That's my position. I'm for good government. So if it is a savings, and it could be much more efficient in that there's an elections administrator as opposed to a two-party kind of elected position. You answer this question, and it's kind of like you're talking yourself out of a job, but ultimately my response is I'm for good government. If it's good policy, then I'm for it.
I guess I would support that. I think that in tough times like we have right now, I think we have to make tough decisions. That way, if it's through the selected process, then the best qualified candidate will be selected either by the mayor, he or she, whoever is the mayor, or by task force that the mayor may develop, if that's the case. That way, there will be a pool of candidates that will be applying for the job, and eventually there will be a selection process where the best candidate or the best person with the best qualifications then can be selected for that position. So I support that.
Yes.
I'm for it. However, there's a problem here in the city of Hartford. Let's all come to reality. Just recently, strong mayor, current mayor, said to you, the taxpayer, that he was going to go internationally to seek the candidate for which office? Police chief. Then he decides to appoint the current active chief. Sole decision, correct? What happened to the monies that was used to do this international search? So I'm okay. It's okay. I'm not against this. However, it depends on who's there making the decision. And that's what's wrong with Hartford. Are you included or excluded from this circle of the leaders, power people in the city of Hartford?
Still have room for corruption, but that exists currently now anyway. So, you know, what's
She was in line first, then we'll take your simple question and we'll answer them together.
Any one person can answer this. It doesn't take everybody to answer this. I heard one of you say, and I don't know which one, that everybody has smartphones and everybody has all kinds of technology. That is not true. There are people living in communities that don't have access to anything, maybe Comcast television. I'm talking about the city of Hartford. And if they do, then they would have access to the community access television. So what would you do to ensure that those people who do not have the technology that many of you assume everyone has, okay, what will you do to ensure that people know, one, where they vote, and two, what you are about and how you are going to, what you're going to do once you're elected?
Could we have, that's a great question, and could we have your simple question, and then we'll let people wrap up with their answer to all of this.
My simple question is this. Sarah, you've been in office for a long time and you spoke about your roots. have the primaries ever been in September? Because I can't recall. And the reason why I asked that question, going back to the young lady behind me, everyone seems to be pointing the finger at the registered voters office and the candidates. People seems to not recognize that, you know, the primaries being in August, you do have a low count of voters to come out and vote because people out on vacation, people sick, a lot of people take vacation time. So if the primaries were back in September, back in the days, you had a high volume of voters coming out because it's
Well, the state legislature passed a law for these primaries in the, for every 2 years. For the federal elections, the primaries are in August. And this was a state thing. It wasn't something imposed by the city of Hartford or voted on here. So that much we know. And you can, I mean, legislators are the ones that have to change this.
Yeah.
Okay, so then why don't we, yes, but let me just play my moderator role.
Okay, all right.
I'm gonna ask that people comment on Bernadine's question and this other question and wrap up your remarks. And Sal, since you're starting to, you really want to do it, we'll have you start first.
I'm the first one coming up.
And why don't you start it, and then we can wrap this up. So, and this would be your final statement as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I want to respond to that simple question that took a while.
Thank you, Sal.
That's right.
Thank you.
Federal law, the year of the devil, in year 2000 in Florida, changed how federal elections were going to be held. And the abbreviated period for a primary. And during the even number of years when there's a federal office on the ballot, those primaries occur in August. In the odd number of year, where there are more state-related offices or local election offices like the Board of Ed, City Council, and so forth and so on, or mayor, those particular are governed by state statute where they happen in September. So that's there's where the change occurred. All right. Prior to 2000, all primaries, no matter if it was federal, state, local, or whatever, occurred during September. All right. So that's the answer.
You want to wrap up?
Now I give my wrap up. I've been in the office for 18 years. I served as deputy for about 14 years, and the last 5 as Republican registrar. I believe I've established credibility among the community by my integrity, my customer service, my extension of follow-up, and follow-up to any voter, to any member of the community that sought help from our office. I think even today, people tend, because of my experience, come to me even though there are other registrars in the office, and sometimes those questions that come to the office pertains to either a working family issue or the Democratic issue, but they seem to come to me, and I sometimes get myself in trouble by answering those questions because for whatever reason they feel comfortable in talking to Sal because I've been there the longest. All right? But I've been there, I've done it, I've tasted it, I want to do it again for another 4 years, and I would appreciate the Republicans, if there are any out here tonight, I think there's one. Come on August 14th. Come on August 14th, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and vote 2A for South Vermont. Thank you.
Thank you. Bernadine, not to avoid your question. With respect to Bernadine's question, what will I do to get the message across? I will continue. I am currently doing door knocking. I can't door knock in all the doors in the city of Hartford. I wish I could. I'm holding office. So therefore, I come here. I had originally decided to say, I come here, I looked at this, I assessed it, and say, this is a way of communicating to those who are bedridden at home, those who could not have joined us here. I turn to the camera and say, this is another way of communicating to those voters out there in the city of Hartford, and I wish to continue to serve you as the Democratic Registrar of Voters in the city of Hartford. I continue to inform you of your voting location, bring awareness. Even if I have to be out there late at night, one lady told me out in the Blue Hills area, young lady, do you realize what time it is? And I looked at her and I said, yes, but when you're holding office and you got to get the message across, this is what it takes. And I will continue to do that. I'm going to take this opportunity to say to all of you in the audience and all of you who are watching on television that I will promise you and pledge that I will continue to provide you with the best service to the best of my ability as a registrar of voters. If you have any concerns and any questions, any suggestions, I am open, but also understand that there are deadlines that I have to meet by state statute, and there's going to be some time in your daily routine that I may not have that opportunity to see you. So when the staff out front say to you, she's busy, can you leave your name and number, she will return your call, I will do that. I will not call you past 10 o'clock though, I promise you. Although sometimes I'm in the office until sometime as late as 3. Luckily and fortunately on my behalf, my children are all adults. They are raising their children, and my lovely husband understands the political process. So therefore, he understands that I'm not just there for him, I am there for the residents and the voters for the city of Hartford. So I seek your support on Tuesday, August 14th, row B. And I cannot sit here and say 2B or 3B because I'm going to confuse all of you because it depends on the district. So I'm pushing for row B. Thank you.
Guilty. I mentioned the smartphones, but that was in response to an incident happening at a polling place. You know, if you have a cell phone, you can whip it out and you can record it. Not necessarily as a registrar trying to conduct outreach to the community, although it can be a very effective way to do so. For the persons or individuals who do not have that sort of technology and we can't access them through an app on a smartphone, it requires that community engagement that happens year-round. It's not a one-time on election day type of engagement. Your registrar should be in your community through the partnerships with the schools, through partnerships with nonprofit organizations, so that when election time comes around, it's not surprise, hi, I'm your registrar, hello. It's, hi, Maisha, it's good to see you again, because you've seen me out in the community. So that's what I bring to the registrar's office. The fact that I can engage in community and intend to do so, because I think voter education is so vital. I'm a big proponent of, you know, civics and the fundamentalness of being able to vote. You know, I've been out knocking on doors as well, and people, you know, either don't want to participate for a number of reasons, but it's so crucial to our everyday thing. You know, Sal did mention, you know, everything is local, so bring that home, make it real, make it something somebody can touch. Like your roads not being paved, you drive down this road every day. You go over the bumps and your muffler falls out, you know, that you have a thing that you can grab and touch and feel in your local elected officials, in your local process, in the process of government. You can touch this government, you can feel this government. So as a registrar voter, you know, I want to bring that to that office. Yes, there are statutes and rules and regulations. There's the letter of the law, but I believe there's a spirit of the law, and that has to be delivered to the people. The registrar's office is not a passive office. It should be an active office and an engaging office, and that's what I bring. Naisha McCauley, Republican. I think there's the Republican. That's what I bring to the table. Tuesday, August 14th. McCauley.
the next register of voters, I think that it's important to be visible. I have an idea that I'm going to put in place as soon as I get into that office. I believe that if I may, sure. I think that visibility is key to that process, and I think that what I'm thinking is that I could bring like a band all over the different areas of the city to register people, to educate people, and I think that's important because I agree with what Mr. McCauley said. This office can be more proactive instead of being so passive. We have to go out there to the community, talk to the residents of the city, and with that particular process that I'm going to do, like a band that I'm planning to, that I'm thinking about, that I can go to all the areas of the city, talk to the voters. Let's say that if I go to your place of residence and you don't know that live there, or somebody else lives there, then why not register that person so that person will become an active voter, you know? And at the same time, I believe that technology is going to take eventually in this process, and we're just going to have to somehow educate everybody to use that type of technology for the betterment of the residents.
Okay, so when is the primary? Thank you, August 14th. Okay, now, I want to thank everybody that's been here tonight. My assumption is that after the primary in the fall, there will be a candidates forum for the 3 candidates for registrar of voters, in the fall, and hopefully we'll see you back there again. I think it's marvelous that we've had such a great turnout and such a vibrant discussion here about an office that doesn't usually generate as much interest. And this is great for all of the candidates and for you as part of this community. Thank you very much.